welcome everyone. Let me just share. I made a small PowerPoint just to sort of set the scene. I know some of you we know, some of you you don't know, and some of you have worked with myself and Shlomit and each other. And yeah, there's a huge bunch of range of sort of experiences and um, uh, with this cost action. I know for a fact that some of you are already involved in the cost action. So this is a great group. What I want to do is basically I have prepared, let's say, 5-6 slides. I know that I sent a application late last night. So the good news is that we have an application in progress. Of course, it needs a lot of work and sort of flushing out, and more importantly, we have to keep it to 15 pages. But the goal for this meeting is to just maybe introduce ourselves, explain some um, um, sort of milestones, and then sort of have a Q&A and questions that you may have. Of course, let me just start with sort of maybe give Shlomit a couple of words to say, and then we can begin. Shlomit, if you have something specific.
Not really, but first maybe I'll introduce myself. So hi, my name is Shlomit Flint. I'm an architect and a planner, and currently I'm a faculty member at Bar-Ilan University. I'm worked with Rishi for quite a long time now, and for this proposal it took me about 2 months to write the first draft before sending it to Rishi. And I think that currently we're in a very interesting stage now because the proposal is fragmented with many contributions before being reassembled again and shortened and so on. So it's very, very interesting. And Bar-Ilan University has a vast experience with the EU grants and costs. So although it's a very competitive grant, very competitive, cost is highly competitive. I think that we have a good proposal, and I think that we can be very optimistic about it.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just sort of start maybe. I don't know how you want to do this, Shlomit, because I am sort of sharing my screen. I cannot see anything in Teams, but maybe just we go through across the table and do a round of introductions. I know some of you already know each other, but some of you definitely don't. So I think, yeah, maybe if you can just take 30 seconds, a minute, something like that, to just introduce yourself to the others. Yeah, Shlomit, you can control this because I cannot really see who go like anything in
I can't see as well. I can't see as well. I think that maybe you can start, Rishi, introduce yourself, and then we can move to Tiana.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So yeah, some of you know me already. I think most of you or all of you know me. My name is Rishi. I run a small company called Geodesign Hub. My background is in geodesign, and I have worked with all of you in some capacity, some projects at some points in the near and far past. But it's really nice, and yeah, yeah, that's about me.
Okay, Tiana, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Shlomit. I'm Tiana Dabovic. I'm Associate Professor at the University of Belgrade, Faculty of Geography, Department of Spatial Planning. I have been involved in many international working groups, and recently I have been elected in the International Geodesign Collaboration Transition Team. So this is something that it's going to be interesting for me, this position. I think that there will be some points of discussion, because I could see in the proposal, Shlomit or whoever wrote that this network will be distinguished from IGC in certain elements. So it will be very interesting to see what will we, and to try to make this complementary as possible. This is also, and I need to inform you that the transition team, and I'm like a kind of a candidate for Europe. There is an ambition for IGC to go to European funds. So this is one of the, when we were talking about the possibilities of trying to apply for some Horizon projects, this is a very, let's say, fragile, we are in the fragile stage of these discussions, but I think that you need to know that this is something that should be grasped within this cost action as well. So I am here to help as much as possible and to see if the cost action can also, I could see that it's international, it's not only Europe-wide, it can go beyond the Atlantic. So, and to connect other countries as well. So I am here to see how this can work as a and to try to put these two positions of mine in a kind of complementary way.
Okay, just to say before we are moving to Uri, I just want to mention that the idea behind cost is to expand the network as much as possible. Okay. So we are not limited ourselves to EU only. We'll definitely see all other options. Okay. Perfect. So Uri, please, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Uri Avon. I'm currently a research professor at the University of Maryland in the US, and my focus is in North America, but I've done some work in Europe, not a great deal. I've been an academic for about 9 years, but before that I have 30 years as a consultant practitioner throughout the US, dealing with all scales of projects, and my niche has become scenario planning and softwares that support it. And that's how I met Rishi with Geodesign Hub, doing some projects with him. I also worked in the public sector in the US as a planning director in counties in Maryland, which have a very powerful county level political role. So to the degree that represents regional planning in a sense, that would represent regional planning. I've also been a consultant for state plans. My institution, the National Center for Smart Growth, is the premier entity in the US that looks critically at smart growth planning efforts and its evolution into questions of climate change and equity and sustainability most recently. We run a lot of models and do a lot of analytical modeling as well as qualitative work. Okay. So I look forward to seeing the evolution of this project.
Thank you, Uri. Neil, can you please introduce yourself shortly?
Yes, hi, I'm Neil Sang. I'm a researcher in GIS, spatial data science, at the Swedish University of Agricultural Science in the Department of Landscape Architecture, Planning and Management. I've been working as a spatial analyst and on the analytical side of things for 20 years, but been working with geodesign and first met Rishi about, I think it was 4 years ago. And I'm part of the IGC as well, done several projects with them and was on the panel with Tiana for the conference this year. So I'm coming at this from the analytical side, but my interest in geodesign is really to see how we can make sure that the models that are being developed are actually being used, because I think there's a utility gap between what modelers create and what planners actually want to use. So that's my angle.
Thank you, Neil. Ulrich?
Yes. Hello, my name is Ulrich.
Right? Ulrich?
Yeah, Ulrich. Yes, Ulrich, or you can say Ulrich. So it's more in the English spoken word. It's more Ulrich. So my name is Ulrich Leopold from the Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology. I have here 2 other colleagues with me who will introduce themselves in a minute, I guess. And we are working for the Department of Environmental Research and Innovation and are in a research group called Sustainable Urban and Built Environment. My background is I'm a physical geographer. and have also some extensive knowledge in spatial temporal statistics, spatial data science. And we have been quite involved in the development of geospatial analysis and simulation platforms, web-based, looking a lot on interoperability, moving also to 3D-based 3D models, city-based modeling. And we have been in the past involved in European projects with cities to help them integrate energy into urban planning in collaborative ways and try to provide decision support tools, analysis tools for energy potentials. I've participated in the past also in a cost action which ended in 2013, which was about integrated assessment modeling of cities, which was also going a bit beyond Europe. I was also participating in a task force, global task force of energy planning in cities, solar energy and in city planning. So we've worked there also with Canada and Australia, and yeah, I've met Rishi in one of the I think it was one of the conferences, which was back then when we worked with different cities on
Yeah, the heat
integrated.
Solar
Yes, exactly. No, yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm very interested in this cost action and see how we can contribute. It's one thing I forgot. So what we are also working on at the national level in Luxembourg, a bit stimulated by our research center, not only by us, is we are working on digital twins, which might be also something interesting and important for this cost action.
Thank you, Ulrich. Tadej, am I pronounce it right?
Very close to right.
So can you please help?
Today. Yeah, it's today. So like today, but
okay.
a bit different.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
Hi. So I'm a researcher. My name is Tadej Belka. I'm a researcher at the Department of Landscape Architecture at University of Ljubljana, Slovenia. We mostly deal with strategic planning and territorial impact assessments and things like that. We are not so much into development of GIS systems or tools, but we of course use them often. We produce models, so we are more on the user side of the technology. We used Geodesign Hub also frequently. I only met Rishi online so far, but I hope this changes as soon as possible. We are also part of the IGC collaboration. I see a couple of people here from there. So yeah, I think what interests us most about this proposal is this cross spatial or cross scale implementation of plans, from the strategic to the local scale, and how you actually implement the strategic decisions then in the local scales. My experience in cost actions is a bit limited. I've only participated in one. It was about renewable energy and landscape quality, which we also do quite a lot of project recently in renewables planning and impact assessments for landscape and this kind of similar topics. Thank you.
Thank you. Chiara?
Thanks, Lomit. Hi, so I'm Chiara Cocco. I'm currently a research scientist at University College Dublin, Ireland. So I'm working with my colleague Sol that will introduce himself later. So we are working on this Interreg project, which is called CCAT, Coastal Community Adapting Together, which is basically looking on increasing knowledge of climate adaptation across the communities in the sea, in the Irish Sea region. So it's an interact between Welsh and Ireland. And we are testing many methodology and tools for citizen engagement, and particularly we're testing geodesign. We are also interested in geogames like Minecraft, in participatory mapping initiatives. And so the project is on its last year. It has been a two-year pilot project, and we are particularly interested in kind of bringing all the lesson learned through CCAT in future projects, and so we are all very interested in this cost proposal. My background is in architecture and GIS. I've got my PhD last year. I can say basically in geodesign. It's been many years that I'm working with Rishi. I know already many of you, so it's and I can say that I'm very interested in everything related with digital technologies and the use of these tools for community engagement and awareness raising on and knowledge sharing and collection. So particularly interested in this cause. And thank you, Rishi, to bring us in this community.
Thank you, Chiara. Felipe?
Hi, my name is Philippe Pignero. I'm working with Ulrich at LIST, the Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology, and I'm a research engineer. So I mainly work now on WebGIS tools. So I developed 2D and 3D viewers for displaying GIS models, and also developing some processing on datasets, and currently also working on some weather data GIS datasets for Luxembourg. So mainly developing GIS tools on the web. That's all.
Thank you. Aya, you are the last one.
It seems, yeah.
Yes. Hey, everyone. I'm Aija Staffans from Aalto University, Helsinki, Finland. Thank you for inviting to this group. When I'm now listening to your competencies, so I must say that I'm not that strong computational person. I'm an architect background person with interest in participation and collaboration. So that is something I can say that I have quite a long experience and career, and pioneering also those methodologies in Finland in this field of urban planning, urban design, land use planning, so these fields, and mostly on city and neighborhood level. So those are the scales I'm mostly working with. I work as a senior research fellow in the Department of Built Environment in the School of Engineering of our university. And our department is quite multidisciplinary. We have geoinformatics in the department. We have spatial planning and transportation engineering. We have real estate businesses, water engineering. So it's very already multidisciplinary by character, our team. Of course, we are then divided into smaller research groups. I'm teaching, and I have also young researchers who are more talented in computational working. So that is I feel my role as supporting there in their career. For example, these digital twins, it's very topical at the moment in Finland. We are renewing our legislation, and whole planning will be done in these digital platforms. So yes, that's very actual in our environment. Then one detail I want to bring here is the KUPUM conference we just organized, and Rishi was there, our keynote speaker, and also ran one masterclass. And so we have met with Rishi. You have twice been here in one of our studio courses, and so that's how much we are familiar with the Geodesign Hub. But I'm afraid that's all where we have experienced of that in Finland. So thank you for inviting me here.
Thank you.
Thank
Richie?
you. Yeah. Just to sort of let you guys know, a couple of people, Christina and Grega, who were supposed to join us, couldn't. Somebody is entering the Saul. Yeah, maybe we just wait for Saul to introduce himself and put him in a position. Hi, Saul.
Hi, I heard my name. Sorry about that. My internet dropped out.
Yeah, you were the last one to be introduced, and then we have discontinued Saul. As if you could briefly tell us. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. So yeah, my name is Saul Crowley. I'm a research scientist with University College Dublin and Fingal County Council in Ireland, working on the Coastal Communities Adapting Together project. And my specialism is in kind of community engagement and planning. So with Chiara, my colleague, we're working on with adaptation for coastal communities.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, as I said, we have a couple of other people who could not join, Christina and Grega, that come to my mind. You will see them in the next calls or yeah, just in the coming weeks. Just to sort of get everybody on the same page, I know some of you have experience with cost, but others don't. Essentially, this is a 4-year long project. The funding is not a research funding per se, but it is more for meetings, workshops, conferences, what they call as the short-term scientific missions, STSM, so you might see this in the proposal, and training and dissemination activities. So as you can see, it is mainly for this sort of networking and knowledge dissemination, those type of activities. So in my opinion, the research focus is not that much. We have Ulrich and Tadej who are more experienced with this, and they can sort of share their comments. But the more interesting thing is that you can join as one of three groups, or 3 kinds of people: management committee member, working group member, or a participant in the action. So there is a detail. Sort of, I put a link there. You can take a look. When I share this PowerPoint. I think at the moment we have it in the open. Certainly, Shlomit and myself, from as far as the proposal is concerned, will be in the management committee. Don't have a strong opinion on or a recommendation on who you should be, but I feel like this is something that yeah, you need to sort of think about a little bit. Either way, goal of this is not to put a lot of load and burden on your side or the participating sort of members side. So I want to sort of make that a little bit clear, in that it is not my expectation that this will be like a full-fledged research proposal with resourcing and so on. As I said, Ulrich and others can comment a little bit about what is expected, but for the moment, just think of it as application for funding around networking, workshops, and conferences, and so on. Then I have shared the sort of the draft proposal with you. Uri has kindly reviewed it last week. So basically, where we are right now is wrote the first draft. I sort of made some changes to it, and then we shared it with Uri, and he has kindly sort of gone through and made several sort of comments and contributions. Some of them are unresolved. They are still open as comments, so feel free to jump in and tweak and so on. But the core idea is really 3 things. The first one is sort of this trend of digitalization. And so the way I would portray this is this notion that, like I has said, there are laws and regulations coming around digital planning, and sort of our colleagues Ulrich and others mentioned about digital twins and so on. And so we face this tide of digitalization, and we sort of try to pitch it as a digital negotiation platform or something like that. So we talk about that. Then this overarching theme between gap in theory and practice. Of course, we all understand that this exists. I think that one of the goals of this network should be to try to minimize it by giving practical tools and practical events and workshops, for example. So I think that fits in well with where we are at the moment. And then the third thing is this focus on EU-wide open data. So essentially, what we're trying to sort of portray it, or at least present this network as, is that we're not going to make sort of very detailed comparative analysis in, between the cases and so on, but try to use sort of common data that is available across the network, and maybe use data as the interoperability layer, not the projects themselves. And this is my take on it. You might have a different opinion. Let's just discuss that very briefly. I just wanted to sort of familiarize you with the schedule and then open it up for Q&A. Basically, this is our first meeting. As I said to you, we have a draft circulating. Then, if you have specific feedback on the application, I know some of you have already emailed myself and Shlomit. Thank you for that. Basically, we are expecting either in the document itself or via email. I prefer the document. Just if you have feedback or something, please sort of bump the version and just give it back on by the 15th of July, in 2 weeks' time. And then by the end of July, hope to sort of have a, let's say, a draft that we all agree with broadly. Of course, not everything will be agreed at that time, but basically the main challenge here is that we have to limit it to 15 pages. So the more you cut, the better it is, frankly. So we do that by the 30th of July. Then by the 15th of August, which is 6 weeks from now, our goal is to finalize the membership. So we have this initial set. If you think others should be involved, or we'll sort of hope to finalize it by the 15th. And then over the summer, we just finalize the second draft essentially, and then submission by the 15th of September. That's sort of the broad schedule. The key thing is basically finalize the membership by the 15th of August, so 6 weeks from now, and then by 15th of September, we finalize the submission. Bar-Ilan and Shlomit's sort of group has a one person who can review it for us at the end, but they would not be subject experts. They would probably be more experts around applications and so on. So our hope is to have provide them with something to review by the first week of September. As you already saw, we already have a lot. Now it's this matter of tweaking and really refining the proposal. Now, the last thing I would say before we open it up for Q&A is really three things as a follow-up action or whatever. If you think that there are potential partners that should join the network through your network, I know Ulrich had mentioned Amsterdam and others, please reach out to them and sort of, myself and Shlomit are very happy to just have a meeting with you independently if you want. I'm in the process of creating like a 1-page or half a page document that you can share with sort of the potential partners so that they understand what the staffing and resourcing is. But as you know, this is more around networking and events, so we don't expect like full-time activity or any of that. And then the second thing I ask you is to provide the feedback and review it. So we are hopefully you will do it by the 15th of July. If not, then you have other chances in August as well. But the idea is just please review it and provide feedback, especially Ulrich, Tadej, if you're familiar with some of the things that makes a good cost application, please just feel free to just change, edit, pillage the document. And then my goal is obviously is not to burden you with tasks and things like that, but what we're hoping to do is we will have a meeting sometime in the first week of August 21. So again, if you look at the schedule of 4 or 5 weeks from now, where we will have the second draft ready, and then potentially just have a brief meeting on any Q&A, and perhaps if we have new people coming, joining or dropping or whatever, and then probably have a last meeting around the 15th or something like that. But that's sort of the general schedule. Maybe Shlomit, do you want to add something else?
Yes, I think that it's Rishi mentioned three ways to participate, or at least 3 ways. I think that there are even more options, but it's important for us that you will tell us what kind of way, what is your way to join us? Because Rishi will then have to allocated resources, so it's quite important in this terms. That's all.
Yeah, there is this sort of, they have a as I sort of open it, I just wanted to sort of point to two things. That's this is that sort of a PDF document that they have linked. Here you can find the the kind of membership activity. So it is sort of you can join as one of these and take a look, and there's other stuff as well, as you can see. And then the other thing is this sort of which is relevant to us, and this is why we have the composition like we do. Basically, they are interested in what you would call as inclusiveness target countries. And I think we have a decent representation, but let's say that they prefer certain countries over the other. You can see the list here. So if you know people or contacts or people in your network from these countries, of course, please, they're very welcome, and I think it will make our proposal stronger. This is the cost website. So frankly, from my point of view, I don't have a preference, but it seems like cost does. So our proposal looks like it will be stronger if we have people from these countries as well. Yeah, so then with that, maybe let's begin with questions, comments, perhaps, if you have any. I know that I sort of sent the proposal a little bit late yesterday, but any comments, concerns? I just wanted to spend 20-30 minutes, just like a free flow, free thoughts Q&A. I'll take some notes. Yeah. Questions that you may have on what we're trying to do, or concerns, or whatever. It's it's kind of an open mic.
Okay, this is Aya making a question. I try to get the big picture of the proposal. Maybe some of you are already more familiar, and I'm sorry I didn't have time to read the latest version which Rishi sent us. But it is a bit unclear to me when we talk about these digital negotiation platforms and this comparative analysis and data collection. So where do we actually get that data? So what are these cases? We talk about these cases we are studying in the network. So how do we get these cases? And is it so that we are expecting cities, for example, to participate so that we get this kind of new negotiation processes, which I understand are in our focus?
Shamit, do you want to take a first stab at it?
I think that we will based mainly on data that we already collected and case studies that we are already working on. And regarding the new case studies, I think that we will be heavily rely on open data.
Okay, yeah. So is it so that most of you already have done this digital negotiations? So you have these cases and that data. Is it so?
Most, not all, though.
Okay, but it's good to know. Then I understand more how it. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. And then we will use EU-wide data and open data as much as possible. Frankly.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's my question.
Perfect. Ulrich, maybe, and then Tian.
Yeah, I maybe I can just make a comment also to general in cost action. What you said, there's not too much research going on. I think what they like to see is that there are nevertheless in parallel some research projects going on where we can actually work on, because the budget doesn't pay time, just basically traveling and accommodations and these short-term missions. But I think that's good if there are some good use cases to use. And I have a question also about the term digital negotiations. Is this something you coined? Is this something very widely used in the literature? Because I had some problems to find actually this term in the literature, at least not in this context. I found other contexts, but I was curious about that and how we are getting there, and then how this relates to gaps in the EU research landscape. Yeah.
Well, I'm laughing because this term was invented a little bit, and so I'm not at all surprised that this doesn't exist in the literature and so on. So that's one. The second thing is, I think the issue is we wanted to frame it in two or three things. One is this notion of give and take and negotiations between stakeholders, between peers, between agencies, and so on. And then this overarching component that it will be digital, either through regulations or just the fact that we live in the 21st century or something like that. And so it seemed like a good way to frame it. Now, as far as the gap in this is concerned, I think that when you start to sort of look at this, what we ended up in the proposal was this gap between theory and practice, and so you get into this planning support system language and so on, where there are digital tools but they're not getting used, and things like that. So I think that, how do you say, this invented term was meant to capture some of these issues in a succinct way that sort of we can try to communicate, and that's what I could say at the moment for it. Yeah. I mean, if you have any better suggestions, Ulrich, please just let us know. I think it's hard to sort of capture all of this, like to invent a term like digital twins, which captures it very nicely, but something like that, you can say it's an attempt to do that, frankly. So.
I mean, here it would be the process you're trying to capture.
Correct.
Digital twins is maybe more the
product.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. The technologies behind that, which can serve that. Yeah.
Because
in
the
general,
workshops and so on will need that process. No? I mean, those like, what are you trying to do? So.
Yes. Yeah. In general, I was reading the last version just before the meeting. In general, I have the feeling we need to maybe try to be a bit more precise. Sometimes I have the feeling we're still a bit vague in the challenges, also identifying. What I saw, there's a lot of literature, but what I couldn't capture, at least not so quickly, I didn't read maybe also intensively. Are there gaps also, and do we relate to existing running past EU projects? I guess that's probably important as well to maybe identify some projects which give some of these hints and recommendations or feed into this reasoning of the proposal. Maybe also see if there are links to existing or past cost actions. That could be maybe interesting as well to build a bit more the case.
Okay. Fine. Yeah, I've taken a note of that. Yeah, just feel free if you know of any, just on the document itself, or yeah, just here.
Yeah.
Okay. Who else? Neil. We have a bunch of questions. Neil, maybe you can begin.
I don't think I was first. I think Tiana was. Do you want to go first, Tiana?
Yes, thank you, Neil, because I will try to lean on to what was said right now. First of all, I think that the whole thing about digital technology in this application should be articulated in the way how technology is really making the knowledge more inclusive. So this is something that we need to, cost actions, as I understand, I have no experience, but I understand that we all have some research units, and this research should be disseminated. So in this way, I think that we should look also not only open data, but also open science or open the distribution of the research that is there. And of course, the technology itself is making the knowledge more exclusive, making it cross academic borders and go into practice and be useful in educating other stakeholders in planning. So this is something that we need to, in open science, there are some ways we can put the application. We can just indicate how we would make this more open. The entire, it's not about us using open data, but also us giving our research outputs out there and making it more accessible and visible. And I would suggest, I think that the proposal is full of explorations and the justification and all this. I was thinking perhaps to propose an option of trying to look at the proposal in a very simple structure, to go one by one and then bullets, try to go to make the application in a very simple structure, structured in a simple way through the several bullets, so we can see how they mirror what we are doing. And I think that looking at it in that way, we can fill out the bullets afterwards with all these materials that you already prepared. But perhaps to have a more clear structure of the application. I have a bit of a problem of going through it.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I think that this is a comment shared by others as well. I think that it is a little bit more exploratory, and I know that people have said that it looks like more like a research proposal as well. And I think that point is very well taken. I think it's the first time also for myself applying for a networking type grant like cost and so on. So yeah, some of this is a learning thing. So if you have any strong suggestions, or just please feel free. And yeah, I mean, we brought it to this stage, and of course some needs. The good news is we have 6 more weeks or 8 more weeks, but that goes very fast, as you know. So okay, who else?
Okay, shall I go now? So I actually like the sort of research element. I mean, obviously, being a researcher, I would, but I think that within what COST can do, I do think the short missions are some of the most interesting bits, actually. So let's not lose sight of that. We just have to make sure that it doesn't dominate, because otherwise, if we look too research, we won't get it. So I had a comment and then a question. My comment was that I think we need to show more clearly why this is something specifically the EU needs to fund, why this is not something that we can generate bilaterally or in any other way, and suggestions of how to do that. Firstly, we could connect the open data to say we can test the Inspire SDI to see how well it is supporting these functions. I mean, Europe's poured a huge amount of money into its Inspire SDI, so they want to see use cases come out of that and out of Copernicus, and proving that it's useful is one way to do that. Another thing is maybe to try and pick some examples which are specifically European scale planning problems, maybe long-term travel or cross-border environmental issues or something like this, which really builds on the unique selling point of geodesign as a distributed way of negotiating, something you cannot replace with in-person meetings at City Hall. I think, you know, those two things together should catch the EU's attention. And then my question was, because I haven't been involved in COST in many years now, the rules around membership, there's a limited number per country, is that correct? Is it only 1 or 2? Each member state can only have 1 or 2 organizations as a member? Or am I
don't think so.
Misrecalling?
I don't think so.
Okay, maybe that's changed. It's been a long time since I've been in the COST.
I think there's 1 representative per country, but then there can be more members per country.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I think your point of trying to make it more EU focused and cross-border focused and SDI, I've made a note of that. I think the background, Shlomit, then we have to trim it down a little bit. At the moment, we have a lot of this references and backgrounds, perhaps, but we'll try to incorporate that.
Yeah, we need to be more focused. Absolutely.
Yeah. Any other
You'll
questions?
help.
How do I lower my hand in Teams? Have I can use Zoom? I'm sitting here like this.
You
How
click
do I
on
get
it
rid of-
again.
Go away. No, it's not going
Go
away.
back
Oh, there
where
we go.
you raise it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions?
Yeah, I would go if it's okay. First, I have a very simple question. In the first few pages of the proposal, the focus is more or less on urban environments. Do we focus on them, or is it also rural areas or landscape scale? And
Absolutely.
it's broader. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Then I'd just like to maybe refer to what Neil and Ulrich already stated about cost funding being mainly for travel and not for really research time. We found the same in, I mean, it was the same in our cost relay action. But that being said, we found also that it was the training schools, so a week-long training school of mostly PhD students where a lot of work was actually done. And I think we even got 2 articles published out of the 2 training schools. And in that cost action, there was also quite a strong community of PhD students. I was a PhD student then, and all of us tied our research actually to the cost relay topic. So in a sense that PhD community or PhD students were then able within their programs to contribute the research part also to the cost action. So if any of you have any starting PhDs, you know, you can maybe focus them or push them a bit in this direction if that is something that you feel would be good doing. Then regarding the digital negotiation, I actually like that term. I find that the negotiation part is most important for our context, not so much the digital, but of course, if you have all this data and it has to be digital, there is no way around it. We have a very strong case of silo mentality here in Slovenia, and everybody is mostly focused on, you know, getting more data, getting more studies, and not so much in bringing them together and negotiating, which is, I feel that there is a general lack also in other countries or in the academic sphere about how to bring different values together, you know, not just hoarding data and getting more studies and not really talking about how to incorporate them. So maybe we can stick with the digital negotiation as something we came up with, but address in the literature more this symptom. So I don't know, keywords such as silo mentality, sectoral approaches, specialization of society, argument society, or whatever. I had a colleague recently look for literature on these topics, and it was quite thin. Maybe he didn't do his work correctly, but he didn't find a lot of studies. But there was one interesting article. I think it was circulated even in the IGC community, and I'll just post it here. It actually talks about this, that science should more focus on visions, not so much on the science. Okay, thanks.
Uri?
Yeah, I was curious because my background and experience is largely as a practitioner doing actual projects all over the place. I was interested in how much of the work in your minds, Rishi and Shlomit, and how many of the actions have to do with real projects in real places with real communities that are selected and involved in trying to address a problem using Geodesign Hub. Is that a core major element of what we're calling actions? Because that can be extremely time-consuming, expensive, and tricky. I don't understand how that, as an activity, how that fits into the overall concept yet.
Shlomit, you want to go first? I can answer him.
I think that we will try to make it as much as possible into the real world. And I think that we have enough case studies to start.
You mean case studies that have not yet been begun but identified?
That you know, well, under the workshops worked on it, and I think that we do have some cases.
I think
Yeah.
my point, Uri, is that in this call there will be everyone, at least maybe apart from Ulrich, but everyone that I see at least would have data and cases already ready in their jurisdiction or their domain or whatever, that we could take. I think this notion that we are going to invent case studies and sort of start from scratch, my instinct is that the answer is no. But the point is, if that is the case, then we have ways to make it very fast, or sort of that the burden of that is not on the members, let's say.
So there are existing cases that people reanalyze, or we provide a template or a format for their analysis. Are they the primary, or they a primary source of our analysis to learn lessons from them and look at them overall and control for differences between them? So it's really an analytical review, maybe revisit some of the cases to see what effect and the outcomes have been and the durability of the consensus achieved. So that's the kind of activity under the actions. I'm trying to distinguish between actions and working group membership roles. One of the three things you mentioned, people can choose to do. And I'm still fuzzy about what actions means.
So, sorry, go on. Go on.
I think that the most important thing for us is to try to draw lessons from one case study to the other, because currently most of us are focused on certain case studies, but without really transform lesson. And if we are talking about promoting good planning, or learn from one case to the other and go like cross-cascading, so we must be able to deeply understand what we are talking about and what we can deliver outside of this specific area. And I think that this is definitely one of our major aim.
So creating the analytical framework for reviewing and understanding the case studies and their implications and their institutional, political, legal, social ramifications, that's all part of work to be defined and done, right? We don't need to add more in our proposal, is where I'm going, on how exactly we're going to be doing this.
I mean, if you're asking that if cases need to be invented and we need to say, well, here's how we're going to come up with new projects and so on, the answer is no. I think that the latter part, which you said, which is analyzing the organizational capacity and implementation capability and all of that, I think my answer would be we need to explore that between the cases.
Okay. Well, nothing in the proposal yet directly addresses that challenge.
Yeah, you're right. It's hand wavy at best. We will learn from each other, and yeah, I think that point is taken well. I think part of the challenge here is to not say that we're going to come up with this new method of comparison and so on, because that is not the goal. I feel. I mean, I'm very happy to change my mind, but I feel like the goal is more on funding networking activities and workshops and training and dissemination. The goal is not to come up with this new method of comparative analysis, or if that, how do you say, if that happens, then it's great, but it's not what we're said. I mean, the report will not say, here's a new method to do it. The report will be, here are the learnings that we learned from each other, something like that. I mean, looking at you and Neil, like we did this work with Presto, for example, at the Chesapeake Bay a few years ago, and I've worked with Neil in Loma, two widely different contexts, one in Sweden, one in the US. But really, the only common thing between that is me, for example, having worked in both of them. But I feel like, well, we feel like there should be shared learnings across that, because there are there, frankly, and I think that those activities we will try to fund, not try to say that Loma and Maryland are the same, and can we somehow like equate them or make them the same or something like that.
Okay.
Tiana, I'm kind of conscious of the time, so yep. Go on, yeah, please.
You're muted. Chiara, you're muted.
Thank you. Do you hear me now? Okay. So I'm sorry I didn't really pin down what is my interest in this. I would the situation in planning in Serbia is awful. We have no negotiation, no digital, no live negotiation. There is no negotiation. My idea to be here is to try to offer an alternative to those practices. So, but something that I was thinking to ask at the beginning: should we go into cases? Everything is controversial here. Everything that has negotiation as a label is very controversial, because there is only one planning led by the state, by the ruling party. So these countries that you put, the list of these countries that are on cost action, like they have more points, they're there because of a reason, because this learning process and this dissemination has to go to our region, I suppose. So my point would be, would you like to have controversial, because I would like to propose some participants, and I don't know how controversial you would like to go, because we can go very into those case studies. We have all sorts of problems and disputes. It's electrified situation between the population, which is rising, becoming aware of what the consequences of those political decisions and spatial interventions could be for their own homes, families, and so they are rising up. And you have, of course, the problems with politics, that the manipulation of the media and all sorts of things. Do you want those cases to go inside this cost action because they're very controversial, or you want this to be less turbulent?
No,
I want these case studies.
Exactly, just that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those specific ones.
Are you talking about Dublin, Chiara? Is she talking about Dublin?
No, Serbia. Tiana is.
I'm sorry, Serbia. I'm talking about Serbia.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was figuring.
No. The thing is, Tiana, I think we want to make it as real world as possible, and if it means that they are super electrified, super duper controversial, so be it. I think that, how do you say? As far as an application point of view, my position is we try to be as authentic and as solution driven as we can be. Whether it will work, whether it will mean something will be influenced in Serbia, that's a separate story. But I feel like from an application point of view, we should at least attempt to have that ambition to say we are trying to influence the status quo somehow, through training, through dissemination. I don't know, Uri might have, I think, a different position.
Tiana, we've done some workshop in Jerusalem, which were quite controversial, so, and very, very politics. So I think that we have some experience with that.
By the way, Ireland can be quite controversial too, and Sol can confirm that. So.
Oh yeah, I mean,
does work here.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said about Serbia is, in my mind, was just ringing completely true for the situation here as well. Very, very applicable.
Okay, so.
Aya has made a comment about implementation gap. So what kind of cases do we take?
That's my still I try to understand where do we get those cases, but as I have heard, you have most of you have already the cases, but do we mean, of course we have all the time different kind of urban planning processes ongoing, and we have been studying those, but we can't say that they are any digital negotiation or they are, to some extent, they are of course digital, but yeah, that's why I'm making those questions, and how much do we in a way really work with the practice, because it is quite challenging, as we know from PSS studies, that they are mostly developed in universities, and also when we look at the testings, they are very often done with students, so they are actually not real life projects. And then it's when we then think the real life processes, they are really heavy, they are long, they are full of interests, and of course they are extremely interesting also. And I'm happy if this network can somehow put together those experiences and study and compare. But the question remains: what kind of processes, what kind of cases, what planning questions do we address here? So this is why I'm doing this question here to the chat.
I think your point is very well taken, Aya. I think there are 2 or 3 sort of things I can offer. I don't think I'll answer your question directly, but the first thing I would say to you is that with Uri, with myself, with people like Chiara and Saul and some of these others, you have a group of people who are not, let's say, linked to academia directly. Certainly for myself and Uri, Saul, like, we are professionals, and I know everybody is a professional in their own way, in a different way. So that point is very well taken. But our hope is that we try to make it as commercial or as practical as we possibly can with our limitations and so on. So that's the first point. And then the second point of what planning studies. And from my point of view, I am a little bit reluctant to prescribe. If it was up to me, I would not prescribe a planning study. I think I would sort of reach out to our network and say, Aya, what is the most interesting thing for you or for the municipality? And sort of we take that as a base, and hopefully we will already have some data or some studies done. I know we've worked for 2 or 3 years now, Aya. We have 2 or 3 case studies, and I'm not saying that we use those, but I think the idea there being that we're not trying to prescribe a study or invent a new study, but you say, with your experience, can we tackle this, knowing that you worked on it in 2017 or 15 or whatever it is? And frankly, just looking at the screen in front of me, all of you have so many case studies. I mean, frankly, I don't see that as a problem at all in some ways. We've worked for so many years on so many of these things, and we could take any set or subset of it. Or I mean, I'm very reluctant to prescribe what we should study, but what I think we should do is say we will use EU Inspire data like was suggested, or EU Open data, and we use that as a basis that is common, and then the context and the planning question can change, because that could be very, something that Uri thinks is a planning question for Maryland. He's the best person to tell us about it, not me, or certainly. That's my instinct about this, where we leave it to the members and not prescribe what to study or how to study, except we just say, if we're going to do it, then we're going to use EU Inspire or EU Copernicus data or something like that.
Rishi, I think I understand that you don't want to prescribe in the proposal what we're going to do, but I do think we need to put into the proposal kind of a roadmap towards how that process is going to happen, because otherwise we end up with some contradictions. So when I was reading, I haven't read the new draft, but when I was reading the first draft, and it talks specifically about engaging with people who are difficult to engage with, and that's certainly not what my case studies have done. They've engaged with students and with planners who are already in some ways preaching to the converted. So if we want to identify user groups within the proposal, for example, then maybe we also need to have a way of explaining to the reviewer how we're going to go about having some coordinated or cohesive action that addresses that thing together. And to that point, so you're talking about using European data. Well, maybe that's it. Maybe the point is that we use the European data to allow us to do lightweight but comparable studies as opposed to heavy, time-consuming, in-depth studies, and the benefit is coming from the comparison rather than the depth, something like that.
Yeah. I think your point is well taken. I think this was a similar comment that Uri had. And so when you read this new draft, we have changed that wording a little bit, where maybe people don't want to engage some of these people. And it's sort of presumptuous to assume that these unheard voices or something like that need to be engaged. And so I think what we have reworded it as is basically saying, well, look, depending on the local sort of setup, if you want to do it as a multi-agency thing, which doesn't involve people or anything, that's okay. If you want to do it with the people, that's also okay. And we've attempted to reword it. And frankly, that was one of the major points of Uri's feedback, where you're assuming that everybody wants to engage, and I think that point was well taken. So yeah, I mean, I think my instinct is the same as yours, which we use data as the common thing, and then the cases can have any number of freedom, let's say, because it's frankly easier to manage on our side as well, because data is data, and we all sort of just work with the Copernicus one and something like that. And hi, Karen. Karen's here with us.
Hi there, everybody. I'm sorry, I'm used to Zoom, not Teams. I'm always never been able to unmute myself. I'm really here, I suppose, supporting Chiara and just UCD in any way that they can be involved in a cost action like this. So thank you very much for the invite.
Yeah, I'll send you this presentation. I think, as we know, we are, I would say, 50–60% there with the proposal. At least we have something, and the hard task of whittling it down and making sure we come up within the 15 pages. Think about what I don't know, role you would like to have, and then perhaps if you have potential partners. Luckily, unluckily, COST has indicated preference as to who they would like to work with, like Tiana mentioned. So if you know people in those countries, I guess our application gets more points. I guess, I don't know, but yeah. Tiana, you're muted.
Sorry, do you think we can contact people from IGC, from Turkey? I know that there are some from Turkey. I don't know if you have contacted Haran University.
Yeah, Fred. Yeah.
Yes.
So the two countries that I tried to contact but didn't go through was Portugal and Turkey, because they were on the list, and sort of I know one person in Portugal. I think Fred is a very good candidate because he has this practice experience. I think my recommendation, Tiana, to that is that, of course, no problems with Turkey. I've worked with one of their cities in Turkey, Istanbul, whatever, metro municipal corporation. I think, yeah, I don't think there should be a problem. I think the more practice focus it is better. I feel like Fred is a very good candidate because he used to work in in the municipality quite a bit. So yeah, please, there's no problem whatsoever. I think it's a little bit hard for me to recommend one way or the other because COST seems to sort of prefer certain people, let's say. And yeah, I mean, for me, of course, I work with everyone. It doesn't matter. But I think I'm sort of conscious of the proposal as well a little bit. So
yeah, in Portugal, I'm also sorry.
Sorry, do you want me to contact him?
Tiana, I think that it's important to say that we are not in a competition with IGC. They are more academic focus, and we are more in the practice focus. And there is a lot of there's a lot of connection between us, and it should be increased, but not. We are definitely not in competition. If people are in at IGC, and it's absolutely fine if they'll work with us as well, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So
I think the challenge for myself and Shlomit, Tiana, is that this indication from COST that they prefer certain countries. And then the second thing is that we are trying to mold it in that, at least in the application, to say we are more focused on the practice, right? So we have these two constraints of preference of certain countries and this focus on practice. And Therefore, I feel that if you have people that you know who are interested or are working in both, Uri, Ulrich, yourself, others are very good candidates in that, you are interested in practice, you also understand really what's going on. Those are the kind of people. It's very, very hard for me to make a judgment on people, but the cost is sort of making some of this for us. So I think just be conscious of that is what I would say. Everything else, of course, is not a problem. So. Chiara, you were going to say something, and then we can close the meeting.
I was just thinking about Portugal and Paulo Silva that Tiana should know from ISOP, from Aveiro. Maybe it's a good his work.
If you think that they are like Paulo is interesting, please. I mean, you can introduce him to myself and Shlomet, or I'll share you this presentation. However you want to do this, I'll probably send a meeting. So I'm expecting that there will be fluxes in the membership by the 15th of August, but we really hope to finalize it by the 15th. I think this would be what you would call as a core group. And I know Ulrich had mentioned about Amsterdam and Finland. It's the same thing, Ulrich. My contacts sort of didn't go very forward, but if you feel that you have somebody, please, like there's no problems whatsoever. Just be aware that cost has a criteria and we are focused on practice. So just as long as I trust all of your judgments on based on that, basically. So good.
But naturally, the network will increase, and many people will join us during these 4 years. So it's not that we are limiting ourselves. Just everyone's welcome.
Yeah, I mean this is 4 years. Huh? This is if we get this and move, this is a longer process. So I feel like there will be a core group like this, a core network, and then this. And so we're trying to finalize the core set of people, and then the others can join.
Yeah. And we want to expand our impact as much as we can. So this is part of our mission. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll send you this PowerPoint. You will get a meeting request from myself about in a month or so. Our goal is to not burden yourselves with tasks and so on. Perhaps the network is more important. So please take a look at the proposal and feel free to pillage it, cut, chop. 15 pages may have to be, so any cutting would help. Certainly from an application point of view. So.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Nice day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.